मैं अक्सर सीधा चलती हूँ और लाइफ की प्रॉब्लम्स को पार कर मंजिल तक पहुँच जाती हूँ। Rectilinear motion. So namaskar, hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. So what is rectilinear motion? It is motion along a straight line. Before we delve into the topic, I have developed a habit of finding out a connection, establishing a connection between physics and life. I might be wrong, but I feel that there is some sort of a connection between these two. Like the topic that we are going to discuss right now, this is the motion in a straight line, which is the rectilinear motion, and side by side I will be talking about how we can relate these things, the definitions, the various terms to our everyday life incidents or the life situations. So as I talked about motion, so what is motion? This is change in the position of an object with time. So this is life, and I'm a human being, and life is not the same at every point of time. The situations are not the same every time. So the change in the mental condition of a person with time is actually, in my opinion, related to the life journey. The journey of my life is the change in the mental condition with time. It is what defines my motion. So in physics, what is motion? It is the change in the position of an object with time. And if at all I want to talk to somebody about my mental condition, how would I do that? I need some reference. I need to talk about that particular incident. I need to talk about the situations or the persons involved and all those things due to which the mental state got affected and the condition in which I am today. What are the reasons behind all those things? I need to talk about those. Similarly, in physics, what you need to do is to specify a position, you need to know, you need to have a reference point and a set of axes like the x-axis or the y-axis. We have talked about graphs earlier, and my poems and my videos on life are kind of my medium that describe my state of mind without delving into the actual causes for that mental condition. Similarly, in physics, kinematics is nothing but ways to describe motion without going into the actual causes of motion. This is a science of approximations. As I talked about when I introduced you to the subject, to solve a complex situation, you need to make it as ideal as possible in order to reach to a conclusion and a result which is somewhere near to the actual thing that is happening. So here also we have two approximations. मनुष्य एक बहुत तुच्छ प्राणी है. So the objects in motion are considered to be point objects. Number two, the object size is much less than the distance it travels over a given period of time. The distance it moves in time t. लाइफ की किसी भी सिचुएशन को देखने का मेरा नज़रिया कुछ और है, आपका कुछ और है, उनका कुछ और है, और हम सबका अलग है, ठीक है? So to describe a particular incident, the description of a particular incident will be different with respect to different frame of reference and different nazariyas. So the description of an event depends upon the frame of reference which is chosen for its description. Person who seems to be happy with respect to one person may be crazy in the eyes of the second person. I mean, कुछ भी हो सकता है. A person who is depressed, who is in depression, may be considered to be serious with respect to one person, and the other person may not take that too seriously. चुपके से सुन इस पल की धुन, इस पल में जीवन सारा सपनों की है दुनिया यही, मेरी आँखों से देखो जरा. So this is my way of kind of boosting myself. Makes the things interesting for me that yeah, I'm doing something creative physics के साथ साथ. So an object in motion with respect to one frame of reference can be at rest with another frame of reference. So इस life की journey को आपने travel करना है, ये path length है पूरी, the age, your age. So another term that you need to discuss over here is that path length. This is the total distance traversed. अच्छा, तो अब कैलिबर हम सब में है. कुछ लोगों को दिशा नहीं मिल पाती और कुछ लोगों को they are focused from the very beginning. Some of them are really focused from a very young age. Similarly, we have scalars and vectors. Scalars have magnitude but no direction. I'm personifying scalars and vectors. And the vectors are, so vectors आप सोच सकते हैं, they have direction as well as magnitude. They have magnitude as well as direction. And displacement क्या है? This is the change in the position. So if x1 is the initial position, for example, and x2 is the final position, so x2 minus x1 will be delta x. This is the change in position. So this is the displacement. So delta x, depending upon x1 and x2, it can either be 0, positive or negative. So my life journey is related to the situations that I face from time to time. So similarly, जो motion है, so the motion of an object can be represented by its position and time graph, position versus time. अच्छा, अब कुछ उस तरह के लोग होते हैं कि calm and composed workers type, like they are kind of having a steady mental condition, the steady mental state, ideal condition. इस तरह के लोग काफ़ी कम होते हैं, होते होंगे बट मुझे नहीं मिले. तो यूनिफॉर्म मोशन क्या है? दिस इज इसी तरह के लोगों की व्यक्तित्व. टॉकिंग अबाउट द यूनिफॉर्म मोशन इन अ स्ट्रेट लाइन. So if an object moving along a straight line covers equal distances in equal intervals of time, this is nothing but uniform motion. So x versus t का जो graph होगा, this is somewhat like this. This is a straight line and the slope of this line is kind of constant at every point of time. This means that जो slope है x versus t graph का, this is nothing but velocity. So if we plot velocity versus time, this comes out to be constant for the uniform motion. And it is to be noted here that the acceleration for uniform motion is 0. So I talked about another term, this is velocity. So what is average velocity? This is the change in the position divided by the time interval. So average velocity is nothing but it is a measure of how fast the position of an object changes with time and in what direction. Since the numerator is the change in position, so depending upon whether it is positive, negative or 0, average velocity can be positive, negative or 0. On the other hand, average speed, now I'm talking about, this is the total path length traveled over the total time. So this is not displacement, but this is the total, this is total distance traveled over that particular interval of time. And note that the average speed, when I talk about average speed, it does not tell us the direction in which the object is moving. So since I talked about the total path length is always positive, so average speed is always positive. So this means that the average velocity will be equal to the average speed if an object is moving in a straight line and in one direction only. In that case, what will happen is that कि जो displacement हो जाएगी, that will always be equal to the total distance. So the values for the average speed and average velocities in that case will be equal. So that means that speed is in general greater than the magnitude of velocity. Now there is something called instantaneous velocity. ये क्या बोला है? Okay, now what is this now? Instantaneous, at that very instant, at that very moment. So average velocity tells us how fast an object has been moving over a given interval of time. Mind it, over a given interval of time, how fast an object has been moving. But it does not tell us how fast it moves at different instants of times in that interval. At different instants during that time interval. समझ आया? So how fast that object moves in a particular time interval or उसी टाइम इंटरवल के कुछ इंस्टेंट पे उसकी वेलोसिटी क्या थी, व्हाट वाज दिस वेलोसिटी ऑफ दैट ऑब्जेक्ट एट पर्टिकुलर इंस्टेंट, दैट इज नॉट टोल्ड, that is not informed by the average velocity. The instantaneous velocity, which is nothing but the limit of the average velocity as the time interval reaches infinitesimally small, that is, it approaches zero. So this becomes dx by dt, which is nothing but the instantaneous velocity at that instant. So basically, if you have a position time graph and you want to know the velocity at a particular instant, a particular value of the time, so what you do is you draw a tangent. टेंजेंट क्या होता है मुझे नहीं पता, मैथ्स वालों से पूछना. तो टेंजेंट आप ड्रॉ करेंगे, ठीक है, एट दैट पॉइंट, एंड द स्लोप ऑफ दैट टेंजेंट, एंड द स्लोप ऑफ दैट टेंजेंट इज नथिंग बट द वैल्यू ऑफ द इंस्टेंटेनियस वेलोसिटी. And instantaneous speed क्या है? It is the magnitude of the velocity. So acceleration is nothing but the change in this velocity. So acceleration is nothing but change in velocity with the time. And instantaneous acceleration is defined in the same way as the instantaneous velocity. The acceleration at an instant is the slope of the tangent to the velocity time curve at that instant. So basically you need to keep this in mind. You have three equations that are known as the kinematic equations of motion in a straight line with constant acceleration. These are the kinematic equations of rectilinear motion for constant acceleration. So with this, it's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in my next video. Till that time, this is Pooja saying goodbye and take really good care of yourselves, and I'll be back with my next video.